Right.
Now, I get that they are good, sources that you can lean on, talk to, vent to, and that's great, but they're not therapists. So it's kind of like a meme that I read recently where it was like two ignorant women sitting around. What did it say? It's something basically like two women sitting around with wrong information, talking about exactly. And then it was another one where it was like a girl was y'all both y'all wrong, just in each other's face, talking about you ain't wrong, friend, you ain't wrong, friend. So a lot of times people hang with yes men unintentionally.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though a lot of these podcasters are surrounded by yes men? Now I know what you're thinking. What you guys, what you selling? Now look, I know you all are on social media every day, especially people who trying to sell a business. You trying to promote your stuff. You trying to spread your message. You got the calling. You got the word from the Lord. All that good stuff, right? But you don't feel like it. You don't have the time to promote the social media. You don't have the time to create the content calendars. You don't have the time for none of that, right? So that is where my new package comes in. And this is called the Trust Builder Package. All right. So this is for those of you who want to create great social media content, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook, YouTube. All right. And you need somebody to do your captions, descriptions for you that are high SEO, that'll get you pushed out there to the masses and to find your personal development audience, because you are more than likely a personal development influencer. So who does this cater to? Coaches and consultants, faith-based leaders, wellness experts, authors, podcasters, motivational speakers, educators, mental health advocates, you name it. All of you who are trying to see the betterment of your community. All right, this package is for you. All right, let me hit me up in the DM, email me, reach out on the Nazio platform, and I'll hook you up. Good people, we are back again. It is PSA the Mental Health Podcast, your favorite PSA the Mental Health Podcast. I know you're only, but we here. There's other PSA podcasts I be seeing, but I think they kind of fell off. Not even trying to like be funny or like petty or nothing. Like I think they just fell off, and that's okay, cause I ain't fall off. I ain't fall off. But we are here today for the unofficial part 2 of last week's conversation. So last week's conversation caused a ruckus on TikTok, which I love when that happens. And basically we just kind of talked about, what it was like to be, these male podcasters and male podcasting, and just the aspect of it as a whole. And is it, making men weaker from both angles, like from them being the speakers on the podcast to them being on the other side of them just talking and, listening to these toxic podcasts. And, there are some that feed your soul. And even last week, I highlighted that there have been licensed professionals on my show that have even said that you can use books and podcasts to get you start with your therapy healing journey. You know what I mean? But the issue, or not the issue, but the thing is, we shouldn't stay stuck there. All right. Now let's get into this week's meme. All right. I was going to go with the same meme. I didn't, but this week's meme reads, just because you have a mic doesn't mean you have a message. Inspiration from this week. So the inspiration comes from a few places. Where we go? All right. Yeah. So a quote that I saw says, your platform should be a pulpit and not a pity party. And then another inspiration that comes for this episode is honestly my guest today, which I'm going to introduce him about 3-4 minutes or less. He actually was the one that heard about this topic and was like, you should probably do a part 2 and have me on it. So I said, because you came up with the idea, okay. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and jump into the first segment for today, which is happy hour. All right. So today's happy hour, I want to have a quick little rant. So when we talk about podcasts and we talk about media, we talking about just the spotlight in general, right? Some people got it and some people don't. Some people have that it factor. You can't describe it, but they have it. You know what I mean? They stand out. You know what I mean? It's like there's certain people who be like, you should be famous. You should be in the spotlight. You should be on TV. You should have a platform. And some people it's because they have a message, and some people just because they're entertaining. Some of us can do both, like me. But some people, you have to know your lane. And I think a lot of times people get in these platforms just doing anything for clout. You know, we live in a clout addicted world, or people will do anything for clout, fighting people, starting arguments with people, lying, making up rumors and allegations, just doing anything so the spotlight can be on them. But where does that come from? Well, one, I feel like this generation pushes that, right? It pushes for us to be clout driven, but also what happened to you as a child? Now, I can't diagnose you, nor am I trying to, but I just like to open the door for the conversation. Like, for anybody who maybe is seeking clout, even if they don't realize that's what they're doing, like, where did this come from? Did you not get enough attention as a child? Did you not get enough love as a child? Is it like I need validation from the outside world because I didn't get it in my house? So now I need people to validate me. You know, one of the conversations I had that was going back and forth with this girl who I could tell was a feminist on TikTok from last week's episode, when I had made the comment about hoes and how, you know, we live in a world of double standards. And I could tell she wanted to be validated. And the thing was, which I don't know if she realized, and I think she might have at the end, either she just got tired of going back and forth with me, or she maybe heard me when I was like, you know, I thank you for this argument because you're pushing this conversation to the forefront. But what I'm saying is, and let's talk about it, we're being a hoe, right? In today's world, a man can be a hoe and a woman cannot. It's actually celebrated, right? But spiritually and biblically, they're both fornicators and they're both damned to hell for living their lifestyle, right? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of extreme. But in my book, I had said, and not my actual book, but in my like on the thing I had said on the episode, I was just like, you know, look, yeah, if you're a hoe, you was a hoe. Like I said, it's worse things you could be because you can come out of that, right? And so she was just saying that me saying that you're ignoring or justifying a double standard is a part of the society's problem. What I was trying to explain was, here's the thing, they're both hoes, and one will accept one, they won't accept the other, right? But what I'm saying, and she was like coming from a male's point of view and all that stuff, right? But actually, I agree. But the issue is you're trying to argue a point that people aren't going to listen to. And not saying that, and then some people say, well, there are certain things we have to push back on. That's just one that's not going to change. It's just not. There are going to be people who are going to say, no matter how eloquent your speech is, how many facts you prove, how much data and statistics you bring up, there's going to be people who will die saying a woman is a hoe equal bad, man, hoe good. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with people. And my push was, do you want validation from those people? Do you want them to have a heart change and be like, oh no, you know, well, it's okay for you to be a hoe too? It's people that's not going to, you and society is not going to be okay with that. It's going to be, you know, damned for the rest of eternity. It's just what it is. So, but if you're okay, and like I said, if you're going ho, that's you. But if you are confident in who you are and you are comfortable in your own skin, then their lack of approval of what you're doing won't matter. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Hopefully, it explained it a little better. But ending off, before we go to this episode, again, either you got it or you don't. Now, this guest, you just heard from. You literally just heard from. And audio-wise, this episode is doing well. YouTube is doing cool, but audio-wise, this episode is doing really well. And like I said, he was just here. I haven't done this, I don't think, ever, where I got off episode and brought somebody right back this quick. What we're doing this today. Today, we're just going to be more of a casual conversation. We're just going to be talking about these podcasts and podcasting and just platforms in general. So let me go ahead and reintroduce my guest. But for some of y'all, this is your first time. My God, what is going on?
What's happening, Izzy?
Now, I see, you know, your name. You've been here several times. Well, you've been here before. So just for the person, whoever this is their first episode, having, you know, meeting with you. And if, of course, you need to go back to the original one he was on like 3 weeks ago. But can you tell people once again what's your name, where you from, and where you live now?
Absolutely. I am Kijuan Amey. I am from Durham, North Carolina, living in central North Carolina in Mebane.
Okay. Now, again, tell the people, just reiterate what it is that you do for a living and what would they see you for? What would you be known for?
Yeah, so well, I'm a retired Air Force veteran, but I am now a professional resilience speaker and coach. And yeah, and I do mentoring and I'm an ambassador for the Air Force Wounded Warriors program as well.
Okay. Now, also, we see your shirt that says "So easy a blind man can do it," right?
Yeah.
And as you navigate, and I've told you before, we make jokes all the time because I know him personally, y'all. So like I tell him he a superhero and he already got the look. If you see his pictures and he got the shirt ripped open, y'all gotta check that out. But you navigate the world of sound alone. So with that, how does this change your perspective of the media, podcast? Just how does it change your perspective from someone who, those people can't rely on the visuals and the graphics? You have to literally say, I'm gonna know if your content because I'm gonna hear it, and that's all I can do. So how does that change your perspective?
Um, I'll tell you this. There's some boring people out here.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, so I also before I went into the Air Force, man, I used to be an onstage actor. You had to
Mhm.
bring everything, not just you standing on the stage, not just what you wore, not just smiling at people. When you said something, you had to make it come across the right way. Whether it was supposed to be anger, sadness, funny, laughter, whatever it's supposed to be, serious, it's supposed to come across the correct way. And so when I hear these podcasts, and hey, you got people that sound monotone as a daggone commercial on TV. Listen, I forget what I don't know the name of the podcast. I wouldn't even call out anyway. But it was just like the guy kind of sounded like if I had potato chips, I would probably love to eat them, and they would be Lay's potato chips, and they were really good. And
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, do you know how to pause? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was that stuff like that, just little minute things, and listen, you already lost me. I'm going. I'm
Yeah.
exiting out of that podcast already. Even some YouTube videos. I'm trying to learn stuff on there, but when people talk like that, or they talk like you getting lectured to, I gotta go. I
Yeah.
can't because I can't listen to that. Like I start to zone out. I get
Yeah.
really spacey. And my is not that I can't focus, but I can't listen to that voice. Trust me, it's not me, it's you.
So, as a podcaster who I started in 2018,
Mhm.
back before YouTube was kind of a requirement.
Yeah.
I started, so back then you had to be on it. You know what I mean? I'm glad I got
Mhm.
my training ground with that because you had to sound. Even my first episode, sometimes people was like, I like the podcast, but I think you need to add some sound effects. Or I like the podcast, but you sound a little dry sometimes. Like the content is good, so you have to really bring it out. And I think that sometimes these people just so used to like I got the visuals, I'm jumping up and down, I'm screaming and pushing stuff down, and and I got the best effects, but I'm not really saying nothing, and it's you can overlook that. So for people who some extreme cases like you who can't see it, but I
Mhm.
think that if podcasters go back to their roots, real ones, and not the ones who's doing it for a trend, and go back to the roots of being like, you know what, we need to make this pop audio wise. We need to, because even to this day, I look at my audio like the extended cut, like the director's cut, because on YouTube you see the intro and you see the visuals and the banners and all that, but on the audio you hear sound effects. You hear the transitions, you hear the oohs and ahs that you're not going to hear on YouTube. So I actually treat my audio much better than I do my visual. So, but again, I started it when it was still podcasting, and now it's become a mix of like people think their podcast is now a talk show, and not saying that it can't be, but they blurred the lines with a lot of stuff when podcasting was its own medium. Um, so quick question: when you're not on the mic speaking, because you speak on mics, you speak on stages. We're gonna get into something else later on. I don't want to reveal it too early. But how do you keep your message alive in your personal life?
Well, first off, I love going to the gym. That's something that I always did even before the accident, but it's gotten me back to kind of where I am now. I don't even want to say kind of. It has gotten me back to where I am now. I was walking with my mom the other day. We were at the mall, and I said, I walk a lot smoother now, don't I?" And she was like,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah. What are you talking about?" I said, I'm keeping up with you. I'm not. I used to like drag behind her
Mm-hmm.
and pull on her, and she could notice it because I wasn't able to keep up with her speed of
Yeah.
walking. Now I'm literally just floating on her, and I'm
Yeah.
walking with her just like nothing's going on. And that's coming from all the work that I put in at the gym. Now, other things I do to keep myself kind of grounded and um y- and keeping my brain sharp is music. I've always loved music even when I was a little kid. 5 years old, man. I knew I was in love with the drums,
Yeah.
and at 7 I started playing them. And as you can see behind me, there's a drum set.
Right.
Those are my babies. And they're
Yeah.
red because that's my favorite color. There's things that about these different things that I do that are portray me. So um, things like that, man. I do that. I mean, I love reading because I like to learn.
Right.
I've always been that guy, knowledgeable. If you ask anybody that I was in the military with, they're like, "This cat was sharp. Like he's
Yeah.
always on it. Whenever we asked him a question, he's always on it. Stuff like that." So, there's just a couple things about me.
For sure. For sure. And that's good. And it's good that you realizing things that are changing in the gym and from what you've been doing and kind of putting in that work in the off season, and even the parallel between that and like the podcasting space and just media in general. When somebody's putting in their work, when somebody has a team that's working with them and to build their stuff up, and people are just literally sitting down and say, "I'm gonna just and press play or press record and just start
Mhm.
talking." The difference. One thing I like about my podcast, and I encourage, people have different podcasters have different views, but I always encourage, especially my personal development influencers that work with me, that I encourage them to do their podcast in seasons. And the reason being is because going back to my origin, when I started podcasting, there was no other podcast I really looked up to. It was one I did. Shout out to her, Robin Nicole. I'm Wired to Inspire. I looked to her podcast, but I really didn't. There wasn't a other podcast I can kind of bounce off of besides her. So I kind of took some things from her, but a lot of my ideas came from television because I was a TV kid for real and
Mhm.
still TV man.
Yeah.
But what I will say is you have to know where you're getting your stuff from, where you're getting and I think even with like the podcast space, I encourage going back to that, I encourage my people to take breaks and do their podcast in seasons, because some people don't recommend that, but I do, because typically if you're a personal development influence, you got a million things going on at once anyway. So you can take some months off from the podcast, but also because I really want to enhance that storytelling in my clients and in myself, I take do my podcast in seasons and take some time off so that life can life. So when I come back, there is new stories, there is new perspectives,
Mhm.
there are new ways of thinking, there are new books that I've read that I can pull from, and new quotes that I learned. And I can go back to an episode from season 2 where I was really like, this is life, and now season 9 say, you know what, I gotta correct that wasn't good. So it's just I'm really big on that. And again, a lot of these people just jump out and start talking. And it's
Mhm.
just like, as I said earlier about the it factor, some people just don't have it. You know what I mean? They
Right.
think they
Right.
do. They might have the first letter or the second letter, but they don't have the whole word. Um, all right. So typical, we always do have a few words, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Okay.
When you hear the word downfall,
Oh, they're preying on it.
Okay. Platform.
You said platform?
Yep.
Use it to your advantage.
And then discernment.
Ooh, powerful.
All right. The definition of downfall is a loss of power, prosperity, or status, the cause of ruin. Platform, a means or opportunity to communicate ideas to an audience. And then discernment, the ability to judge well, especially in matters requiring insight and perception. All right, y'all. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and jump to the next segment for today, which is what, and I mean what, does this have to do with mental health? So now you know how this segment goes. We kind of correlate it to mental health and just the study of how we act, think, and feel. Now, what most people fail to realize with this topic is when it comes to the study of how we act, think, and feel, especially in the means of podcasting and, our podcasting the downfall of men, a lot of them, as I said last week and we've uncovered, don't go to therapy. A lot of them, really don't believe in therapy, or they use, I've had a friend once, and although I applaud him for opening up about what he goes through, I noticed that he made the comment when he said, well, my friends are my therapists. And see, that's a problem for me because your friends are not licensed professionals.
Right.
Now, I get that they are good, sources that you can lean on, talk to, vent to, and that's great, but they're not therapists. So it's kind of like a meme that I read recently where it was like two ignorant women sitting around. What did it say? It's something basically like two women sitting around with wrong information talking about exactly, and then it was another one where it was like a girl was both y'all wrong, just in each other's face talking about you ain't wrong, friend, you ain't wrong, friend. So a lot of times people hang with yes men unintentionally.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though a lot of these podcasters are surrounded by yes men?
I don't know if I'll say a lot of them, but because some of them are ISO, like some of it's just solo podcasters. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to remember the guy's name that he died not long ago, maybe a year or two ago. But he used to always have or talk negatively about like women and what
Kevin
they're like
Samuels.
really. Yeah, there you go. That's his name, Kevin Samuels. And that guy, dude, I swear, every time I heard something about him, I just wanted to like pull the plug on his podcast because I felt like, just like you were talking about earlier, we're in a cloud-based society, man. And when I tell you that's all it felt like was clout, like he was just being negative for the people to call in and be outraged, and you could fire back. Anybody can fire back and say whatever they want, but that I just was not feeling it, man. Like I'm one person that two wrongs don't make a right, and if you're looking up, you got to look down at some point, okay? And so you need to stop always looking up and look down at people and say, "Well, how can I help you look up?" Like it just felt like his nose was always up in the air, man. Ain't no way. So that's one guy, but I'm trying to think of any yes man podcasts because I don't know of them. if there are some, I don't know of them.
I think. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
go ahead.
I think a lot of those podcasts where it's like, and not all of them, but most of the ones where it'll be a guy and it'll be a group of women, or it'll be two or three guys, and then they bring women in and they have their like debates. And
those are what I call the tokens.
Yeah.
I don't call those yeses. I call those tokens.
But what? I'm gonna say this.
Made it, so now you a token.
I'm gonna say this about Kevin Samuels, because here's the thing with him. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. This is for anybody who think they want to start a podcast. So is it you? Do you think you want to start a podcast? Cool. Let's be real. Watch this. So we don't need another podcast that sound like everybody else, right? We got enough of them. We're gonna talk about those today. But saying the same stuff with no structure, no message, no plan, that ain't good. Now that's where I come in. Me, right here, Head Honcho. All right. So I have a new podcast package. It's called the Legacy Launchpad. Now, what is this? This is for podcasters who fall in the personal development influencer space. So who is that? That would be Obviously, personal development, that's pretty broad, but coaches and speakers, Christian-based influencers, faith influencers, maybe a pastor, a church, any type of course creator, education, mental health, wellness, nutritionist, all that good stuff. If you are trying to help the betterment of other people, fitness too, then this is for you. I will help you build your podcast from the ground up. This includes toning up, giving you the message, your niche, your show structure, the episode outlines, the intros, outros, descriptions, all of you. Show up to record and I build your legacy. If you're ready to stop playing, let's get it cracking. In this world of media, a lot of times this phrase lights, camera, action is really a thing. And I believe that a lot of these people, when they go on camera, they amplify the message, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in some instances, you kind of have to play a role. You have to go in saying, I'm either the hero to whoever the community I'm trying to help, I'm the villain, I'm the anti-hero. You have to know what role you want to play. He took that villain role and ran with it. Now, a lot of the stuff he was saying, I haven't really just did a case study on Kevin Samuels, only listened to like a handful of things here and there. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff, I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't wrong. It was the delivery, but then also that's maturity, because watch this. Even if you're not wrong, it's still delivery. It's still right. how it's being brought out, and it's also timing. Because, for example, as a friend of mine, me and her were on the phone, and she might watch this. Good friend of mine, I'm leaving it at that. And she was having a bad day. Mm-hmm. She was having a really, really, really bad day. I'm putting myself on blast. And she was letting me know what's going on. And I slipped up and was listening to the things that she was saying. And I was like, yeah, you're definitely not wrong. And I knew that she was on her, womanly, Mm-hmm. And so I slipped up and I said, and unfortunately, you being on that is not making it any better. Mm-hmm. And so she flashed like, what do you mean I'm on the day? I got nothing. I'm like, these people was rude. They were wrong. I'm like, all right, my bad. The point that I'm making is, was I wrong? No, because a woman who's not on her will know that me on that cycle is going to make it anything 10 times worse. But just because I wasn't wrong, don't mean I should have said it. And that's something we might have could have said after it was over with, not at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just a bit thing with timing. But all podcasts, if you're listening, please pick a role and run it. Whatever role you're gonna take, run it. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, the thing that I would say in regards to what I'm referring to with Kevin Samuels was, it was never any positivity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing ever came good out of that show. I swear. I mean, there were people legitimately calling in for and kind of trying to plead their case for only to be shot down because it was his show. It was like that.
Yeah.
Like, why are you allowing people to call in if that's all you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, like it felt like he just wanted control. Like he just, I got control, I got power. It was an abuse of power, is what it sounded like.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I felt like. I was like, this is the most toxic thing I've ever heard. Like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on?
Right.
But that's also another thing with that clout based society that I was talking about. What people are feeding for. Why are y'all so interested in negativity nowadays?
Because it sells, and I got a point to
But
prove
that's what I'm saying. Why? Why does that still, instead of the positive stuff? Now, if I put stuff that fights his stuff in a positive way, nobody would look at it. Nobody. No. Because I put out good content, and I'll be like, man, if my cousin like this thing one more time, like,
right, yeah, or your mama,
if my auntie look at this thing one more time, that kind of thing. So I don't know, man.
So the first part is consuming the wrong voices can damage emotional well-being. According to the Conversations article, while we're drawn to outrageous opinions online, constant exposure to polarizing, unhealed voices can normalize unhealthy behavior and reinforce echo chambers that increase hostility and mistrust. The second one says purpose-driven platforms protect men from burnout. According to American Psychological Association research on meaning in life and well-being, men who align their work with a clear purpose experience better resilience, focus, and mental stamina compared to those creating without direction. So both points are going from, I guess, one describes Kevin Samuels and the second point describes you, because the thing is, with the first one, it increases hostility and it just influences or enhances this, puts the fire to the men versus women, the toxic debates, the 50-50, the who paying the bills, why a man shouldn't do this, a woman shouldn't do that. And even with my As a Man series, which we did the part 2 of volume 2 this year, this season, which was just to take the joke that women were saying men shouldn't do and turn them into episode topics. But I think that if there's a way to take, which a podcaster like yourself should do, hint, hint, wink, wink, take the negative and then twist it into a positive way, using the phrases and the terms that they use to then curate a whole project that's like, we debunking this, we debunking that. It would be a way to just, it would change so much. This is the episode, a message to, the Kevin Samuels, a message to the Fresh and Fits, a message to several of those clickbaity type podcasts that specialize in just constant mayhem.
Yeah.
And mass
the first, that first, I guess what it was, a definition or a description. What was that, a description?
Yeah, so these come from different sources.
Okay, so that first one you read, the keyword that stuck out to me?
What?
Normalizing.
Yeah.
Why are we normalizing stuff like that? For you to feel okay that you're doing bad things? What?
Right.
Like, come on, bro. That's like me going. I don't want to say this, but that's like me going around shooting people and normalizing it. It's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because
we what are we doing? What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, as a legitimate society, and we wonder why our world is the way it is, but we act shocked. We act surprised, but yet we're watching it. You watch these real life, real housewives, real husbands, real this, that, there, all these reality shows that show you negativity, but yet you like, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so did that. Why? Because she's related to you? You watch it on TV? Is it because they're not related to you?
Right.
Like what?
People, yeah. I remember a homegirl of mine on the episode we did like 2 years ago when I did the Industry Plant series, and we were just talking about things that we've seen. She said, I want to throw a drink because I seen it on Love and Hip Hop. So
exactly,
we've normalized stuff that's not okay. You might be arguing with somebody and that may cross your mind. You might not do it, but you might be out somewhere and I might think, I should just throw this on her right now. Or I should just throw this on him right now.
They say you get gestures and ideas from something you've either witnessed or seen.
Yeah.
And and why do I know this? That's the same thing babies do. They saw you do it, so guess what? They're gonna do it. You're acting like a child at this point.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. When do we grow up? When do we mature? When do we actually start being the positive lights of the world?
Right.
So that's all I was like kind of getting at with that Kevin Samuels thing. Like, it would just seem so negative all the time, bro. All the time. Nothing was positive out of that show.
Yeah. No, for sure. The third point goes back to you. It says hearing over seeing creates a different filter. According to the Harvard Business Review, peace listening is an overlooked leadership tool. Deep listening sharpens discernment and improves critical thinking, helping filter out manipulation or shallow content. So that's basically everything you just said. And then the fourth one says faith-based messaging can redirect culture. According to Christianity Today's article, Redeeming Technology, using modern platforms for biblical messages can reach those who may never set a foot in church, reframing media as a mission field rather than a distraction. Before we go to the next session, a segment, I should say. So it's clear that we can say these toxic podcasts, do you think they're weapons of mass? That's the phrase, weapons of mass distraction. They're the mass destruction too,
Mhm.
because usually distract, is one and the same, but weapons of mass distractions. Do
They're
you
definitely
think
distractions.
do you think this is something that the CIA set up? The CIA set up.
Hey, they are the Central Intelligence. I don't put nothing past none of these government agencies. I mean, granted, yes, I was military, but hey, I'm just saying. I've seen too many documentaries and things that come out, and I'm just like, what? Like you got who phone tap? You've
Mhm.
been working on what with who? Oh, come on,
Right.
man. So
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. All right, y'all. Let's move into the next segment for today, which is man to man. I got a few questions I'm gonna ask you.
let's do it.
Okay, so you already mentioned Kevin Samuels, but he might not necessarily be the answer for this question because I'm sure you remember, but who might have been him or somebody else. What was the craziest podcast take you ever heard?
Craziest podcast take?
Yeah, like what was the craziest thing you ever heard on a podcast that you was just like, yeah, nah, they wilding or she wilding?
I mean, Kevin Samuels might not be the right answer, but right now, since he's the freshest thing, it would
Mm-hmm.
probably be him.
Yeah.
I know that God, Jesus, there are so many things that happen in the world, but it's not necessarily takes. It's usually them reporting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have to say that.
Okay. Okay. Now let's go back to you. So you're a creator now as well. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So what's something you learned about yourself as a creator that actually surprised you?
I would definitely say natural, just being. Like I just know how
Right.
to flow so smoothly.
Uh-huh.
I want to take somebody's word. I'm very fluid.
Hmm.
I won't tell y'all where I got that from. He might know, but anyway, I try to be fluid with it. And being a creator, I also love to be just me, like authentic. And what do I mean by that? I told you guys I used to do on stage acting, so I try to bring in some of my acting ability. Whether it's voiceover, whether it's literally me being a clown, you know,
Right.
uh, doing different characters. I love to act. That's just something that I like to do and make it that, which is how you make it your own as well. You know,
Right.
and so people have to come back to my show, hashtag no site, no excuses, to get what I deliver.
I think this is a simple answer. Do you think men get on podcasts to heal or to hide? Most men.
It's not for healing. If I had to go majority, I'm gonna say it's to, in a sense, project.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see them on there for healing purposes, man. Out of all the like shows and podcasts that I've listened to, most of them are on there to just talk about other things,
Yeah.
other than a healing method. you know, it's to say, oh no, man, this, that, and the third. You still trying to be cool, okay? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I have a homeboy, and shout out to him. I mentioned him last week, but I have to say it again. He has his podcast called Talk with Tay Pod, and he actually started his podcast to grieve the death of his mother.
Mm,
And so he's, using that podcast for that purpose, and he's started his community and things of that nature. So there are some out here. Now, I'm not saying you didn't say it wasn't none, but just for the
right,
people who think they're all the same, there are some out
right.
here, that are actually trying to have a message. I always shout out Harley Initiated. Their podcast is definitely a platform of growth. I think that Nice and Neat is another one. Those are kind of bigger podcasts, but they definitely have messages and they definitely have goals with the things that they're doing. Now, this is something I asked last week to my audience, and I want to ask you.
Okay.
Would you say that God would say you were the same person on and offline?
God would say that I am the same person on and offline. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Online, I am not going to show you everything
Okay.
because that would require way too much time, first and foremost.
Okay.
But secondly, is because um I, they say, I heard a wise man once say, discretion will keep you. I don't need to show you everything about me. If you want to learn more about me, there's ways to do it. But I on my social medias won't be it. So I'm just not going to show you everything. And I also like to keep some things private, just some family things I like to have to myself, just not necessarily to keep it out of y'all's, listening or viewing. It's to say that I wanted to have a moment with my family, which we all should. That's how I view it. It doesn't have to
Right.
always be shared. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by that.
But now let me ask this
Okay.
from this angle, content wise, will people say you the will guys say you were the same person on and offline? And I say that because there are some people, and not even just the toxic creators, right?
Hmm.
What about the people who do have podcasts who are trying to have that community and like, oh, my tribe, and they saying all this positive stuff online, and then in real life they are a menace. So my question is, and then a person like me, I'm a helpful menace. So I'm like, I'm both. Or I'm the same person on offline. I actually was told I'm worse online than in real life, and I like that better.
I
So
agree.
what would what would be your take? Like, how do you feel with God with that reframing it that way? Would you say that God would say you're the same person on and offline?
No, I'm going to keep it the same.
Okay.
So the way um, it, it's just that I don't have the time to put what I would, if I wanted to put everything on social media that I do on a daily, man, you guys would probably be sick of me. Like, and it's not to say that it's not going to be valuable content, but what I might think is valuable might not be valuable to you. So I love to play the drums for hours on hours. Y'all ain't gonna be wanting to listen to me play for hours on hours on hours. Y'all gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's a cool song. I'm gone." You know,
Yeah.
not the last 14 songs I played. You want to hear? Okay, in one day, mind you. This is not like over a period of time. so
Mhm.
or I mean, y'all might want to see this, but me dancing at the gym, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't just work out at the gym. I have a good time at the gym. I do look serious in my videos, but I also have a good time at the gym. And a lot of
Yeah.
those people be in there having fun times with me, but we won't get too far into that. But that's what I mean. Like, just some things are more so dialed back.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, if you see me on stage, I'll probably bring that stuff out. Like, especially the uh what am I saying? My charisma
Mhm.
and my personality, they come out when I'm on stage. Because
Right.
I it's just a part of my story, what I'm telling. It's
Mhm.
usually a part of the speech that I have to present because I wrote it in there.
Right.
So that those types of things.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So I want to say before we go to the last segment, I want to ask you one more thing. So again, if you could see, if somebody wanted to say a toxic podcaster, say a Kevin Samuels like person, because they still exist, even though he's gone, his
Oh, yeah.
legacy lives on through these other ones. So,
Mhm.
what would you say to a person who had that approach to podcasting? Say, for instance, they said, "Hey, Kijuan, I love what you're doing." They say, "Check out my podcast and give me honest feedback." What would be your honest feedback to a Kevin Samuels?
Um, Respectfully,
Mhm. Okay.
I don't think any of your content is of any value to
Okay.
these women or men that listen to it because you're creating a toxic circle.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I say a circle? Because circles they don't stop. There's no break in them. So what that does is like you said, he might be going, but the influence is in the circle. So anybody else that was listening to him that might have liked what he was saying is now in that circle. The woman who didn't like what he said, which was already there, is now in that circle.
Yeah.
So the circle never stops. And now you're creating this toxic, and I don't use masculinity, femininity, because it doesn't matter which way it went. It's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
The toxicity is there regardless. I don't care which way it came from. We need to be putting more positivity into this world versus negativity. We see how this world look right now. It ain't looking too hot, man. It's not. So that's what I would say to somebody like that, man. And if they fire back, I probably just might drop and walk off.
Okay. Final segment. Let's go into the weekly sabbatical. So as we end off today, if I could ask you a question, if you could go back to your first podcast appearance, your first time ever being a guest on a podcast, and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be you. Like truly show up authentically you. What I mean by that is I'm not saying like, be somebody crazy. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying don't try to, let me sit up right. Fold my hands a certain way. I'm not taking a picture. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? So I want to show up relaxed because that way I'll be calm. I can answer the questions with no problem.
Yeah.
Man, I was on one podcast. This wasn't my first, but I was on a podcast one time. I was sweating, dude.
Yeah.
Why? I'm sitting down. What am I sweating for? Right. I wasn't working out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's why I say that.
Are you familiar with Andrew Tate?
I've heard the name, yes.
Okay. He's kind of in that bracket too. I want you to, for your homework, to go check out Andrew Tate and Fresh and Fit. I might even just send you the clips myself. I really want to hear what you have to say. This might inspire. Well, I won't jump ahead of myself. What weight or what do you wish your younger self knew about the weight of a platform?
It goes back to how I answered the word platform. Use it to your advantage. There are advantages.
Yeah.
There are disadvantages, but there are advantages to having a platform. You get to say things. You get to express things, concerns, or just good things as well. But yeah, there are different advantages to it.
Definitely. Now, I've used this verse several times in the podcast, and Romans 12:2, do not conform to the pattern of this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And also a verse I reviewed, I forgot about last night, Ephesians 4:23, it says that, what was it? It's to a renewal of your thoughts and attitudes. And I think that that's what we need daily, but we really need it, and just our walk in general. But I definitely think with the podcasting space as well. The main thing, especially when it comes to rejecting cultural programming. So our vision should be shaped by God's truth and not algorithms. And I think a lot of times we want to, now here's me, maybe I'm being too secular, but I do believe that there's a way to shape God's truth, but also play into the algorithms. But I think sometimes people tend to just get caught up in, I want to go viral. And I'm not necessarily saying go viral. I'm also saying incorporating it into a way where, it can push the message even further. And then another point, it says influence don't intimidate. Influence don't imitate. It says men with vision shape the conversation instead of being shaped by it. I think that's something good too. Now, as we end off today, we had a great conversation. I'm sure you could tell this is much different than the last one, but still effective. A little birdie, I keep my ear to the streets. I have very small ears, but I keep them to the streets. And a little birdie told me that you have a podcast on the way. Is there anything you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, man. Hashtag no site, no excuses is coming soon. August 27th will be the release date. It will be released that morning, August 27th, 2025. Everybody, please check that out. No site, no excuses by yours truly, Kijuan Amey. Coming to all major platforms for sure. Apple, Spotify, whatever you could get your hands on, go get it. Okay. And that's going to be real, raw, authentic conversation from yours truly, Kiwan, Kiwi, Amy. And just wait, I will have some guests.
Okay. So your platform is obviously, geared towards those who, have to overcome to be resilient, overcome some type of trauma, whether it's an extreme, whether it's a small one. But do you think that you'll be counteracting those toxic platforms with your positive one from an angle that's abrasive and stern, but still with the goal of, I want to see you do better?
Yeah, no, man, my whole goal, the vibe is to mainly show people that, just because you might have, lost something, I don't care what it is. For me, it was sight. It could be a limb, it could be a loved one, it could be, your mode of transportation. You now have no mode of transportation. But I know people who get out and start walking, brother. We got two legs. We always got well, some people have two legs. Some people have wheelchairs. But as long as you can get around, go. Get out. Don't make excuses for yourself. Try to find the true solution. Because once you stop fixating on the problem, you can figure out a solution. Leave that problem alone. That's already there. It's not going anywhere. Now figure out what the solution is to the problem, and then that's how you get over those excuses.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Let's get into the question and challenge for the week. Are you talking to heal or talking to hide? Pick one piece of content this week and ask yourself if it's building your legacy or feeding your ego. And I really want you to really embrace that. All right. Anything else you'd like to say? You can came back quick, but anything else you want to tell the people before we go today? We had a great conversation.
I mean, this has been fun. I appreciate you inviting me back. Like you said, it was my idea, but you had to accept the invitation. So
Right. No, for sure. For sure. All right. So that is all we got for today. Tune in next week for another great episode. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And always remember, I love us for real.